Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada. In this episode, we speak with Jeremy Jauncey of Beautiful Destinations about travel, fitness, cuisine, health, wellness, and overall recovery.
Introducing you guys, my very good friend Jeremy Jauncey, the CEO, founder of Beautiful Destinations. Jeremy, you've got by far the best social media account that I've ever seen.
Thanks, man.
I'm saying that, it's pretty impressive stuff. Could you give a little background though? But it didn't start there, obviously. I mean, you were a professional rugby player, you're from overseas. I mean, Can you give a little background and how this all ties into fitness and kind of where your whole business is going?
Of course.
There's a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah, of course. So originally all started back with, trying to be a professional rugby player. I played rugby for Scotland when I was 14, got into the Scottish Institute of Sport and got into this framework of just learning how to train like a pro, and everything from diet and nutrition to sprint training to weight training, all the things that as a kid, I think you have all this energy, you want to use it, you want to get out and do something, and rugby was really what I wanted to do. So I did that up until I was 18, and then I got a scholarship to go to New Zealand. And I know rugby's not that big here in the States, but in Europe,
it's getting bigger.
I don't understand how it's not either. It's the coolest sport. It's way cooler than football.
It's like football without the pads, and you get to smash people, and you're
everyone
allowed
drinks
to do
beers
that.
at the end.
Yeah,
it's way cooler than football.
So it's
with less head injuries too.
With less head injuries. There's not as much money, but it's an amazing sport. And when I went to New Zealand's like the mecca of rugby. Like, it's the greatest place in the world for rugby. They live and they breathe it. So I did a season there in the South Island, and then a season in the North Island. I got injured, and I did my back. I tore my one of my L2 discs really badly, and thank God no. But I lost my contract. So when you have a back injury in that area, you can't get insurance, and if you can't get insurance, a pro team won't pick you up. So, make a long story short, I didn't go down the path of being a professional.
Yeah, but now Beautiful Destinations. That's like a
yeah. So it kind of pivoted really hard from being into sport and fitness and elite sport into tech and digital, and that's what I did from 21 to I'm 33 now, so I've always been in tech and media, and started out in e-commerce and rewards and doing businesses that would use data to work out how you get people to buy things online.
Right.
And then what that kind of parlayed into is now Beautiful Destinations.
I mean, and for those of you out there who aren't familiar with Beautiful Destinations, I mean, this is kind of where I go. Like, it's like almost like you go there to daydream at times. I mean, literally. I mean, it really is. It is kind of cool. Like, one of my favorite, most recent posts was someone put one up of Quebec. Mm-hmm. And it looked like it was like exactly how you wanted things to look around Christmas time. Mm-hmm. And it's just every day, I mean, you've got photographers all around the world, mm-hmm. and it seems like they're just going for that money shot. Mm-hmm. And you guys are putting that up, and it's featuring these different cities, countries, whatever it might be. But now you're really starting to tie that in with, I guess, different, governments, commerce, mm-hmm. whatever mm-hmm. it might be, to where they're inviting you in now because you're actually starting to drive tourism, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think it comes from the insight that we spend so much time on our mobile phones now that if people are spending time on mobile, and that's where most of their consumer attention is, mm-hmm. there has to be ways to engage people on a mobile that's different to if you were advertising them on TV or in a magazine. And so our whole business is basically built on the idea that people spend time on mobile. So if you're a travel brand, whether you're a government trying to build a tourism product, or whether you're a hotel trying to sell rooms, or an airline trying to sell flights, if you're not creating content that's specifically for mobile and then specifically for social media, you're missing out on the opportunity to really inspire people mm-hmm. where they want to be talked to. Mm-hmm. So our whole business is basically working with these brands, working with these governments, and saying, hey, let's translate all those great things that you're doing in your normal marketing, let's translate it into mobile. And then Beautiful Destinations now is one of the largest travel media brands in the world. There's 20 million people that will come every day to us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat. 2 million of those are on Weibo in China. So we have a huge global footprint, about 180 different countries. So if you want to get access to those consumers, and like you said, you looked, I think you told me when we first met, you saw that, and then you texted your wife straight away, and you're like, hey, listen, doesn't that remind you of a place that we should go to? So it's kind of like that being the focal point of starting conversation about travel. We just want to be the destination that people will come to, and then use it as a way to work with governments and hotels.
But it's Beautiful Destinations is the main, that's the main like mother company, and then right underneath that you have, was it Beautiful Hotels now?
Yeah. So Beautiful Destinations is where we tell stories about places. So if you're the tourism minister of a country, or you're the leader of a government and you want to raise the profile of your tourism product, we talk about you on Beautiful Destinations. If you're the chief marketing officer of Marriott or Hilton or another big hotel brand, we have Beautiful Hotels, which is where we talk to you. And then Beautiful Cuisines, which is probably the fastest growing area of our businesses, is about food. Yeah. People just love social media and food. People just love, I mean, you see the Instagram accounts, they just love food, right? They just want to see food content. So we're starting to do a lot of that, from going into restaurants and actually filming the way that they make dishes that are really famous.
Oh wow.
All the way down to like, these crazy desserts that you see all over New York City that people go crazy for, like, Black Tap Burger that has that, like, what is that, stacked ice cream, all that kind of stuff.
So you're already probably accumulating your favorite spots and foods and restaurants, which is pretty cool.
Places to stay, places to eat.
How do you manage all that? Like, if you have, I mean, I don't know how many people you have working with you, but you have all these images and all this information and content. Who manages that?
Right, so we've got 30 people in the office here in New York, and then there's a network around the world of a couple of hundred photographers and videographers that have been trained in the Beautiful Destination style, know our tone of voice, know how to shoot content for us, and they'll send us content from all over the world. So it's an internal team that is like kind of the nuts and bolts of things, and then there's an external network of contributors and creators that we work with as well. But it's a process.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a big machine.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So now fitness though, because fitness, I mean, the one thing I was impressed with you about was you walk the walk, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a fitness guy. I mean, I respect people who put the time in and who kind of go after that performance physique and where that they can perform. I mean, you're obviously an athlete, but you take your shirt off and you can back it up.
Yep.
How are you tying that now into Beautiful Destinations? I mean, it is, you and I've had the conversation on how travel is, it's part of your well-being. Mm-hmm. This is part of what I consider recovery. Mm-hmm. And when you're breaking out in eye infections, it means you're not resting properly enough, and there's things going on that these are indicators that your body's telling you need a break. Mm-hmm. So now I know you're crazy smart. You're starting to think about how to tie that into the travel. And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it's coming from this insight that what consumers really care about today is very different to what it used to be. And we know that all the data is suggesting the next generation of consumers really cares about travel. And they really care about health and well-being. They're more conscious about their health than they've ever been before. There's an explosion in the industry that you guys know better than anyone, and trying to be a place where we can be positive role models for people and say, hey, listen, if you're going to get out into the world and travel, if you're going to get out into the world and build a career and start working, you need to have your base level fitness there. You need to be looking at the way you eat. You need to be looking at the way that you sleep. I know we've talked a bunch about ways that you can recover from going out and training, and I think all of it comes from this understanding that if you want to perform at your very best, you have to take care of all these different facets of your life.
Listen, I love to eat and I love food. You know, and there's nothing better. You know that when you're going out and you're letting your hair down, and you're enjoying it. But one thing that stresses me out is when I go on vacation, I want to do that, and I want to be able to have that burger, be able to eat something I typically wouldn't eat here. But I don't want to do it all day because my body feels like crap. So when I go away, yes, a vacation for me is not completely shutting down. It's being able to, let my hair down a little bit, but still have access to good food, still have access to a really good gym, good training. I mean, there's people in the city. Last night I went and I took a hot yoga class. It was sold out by the time I got in there. These people want to go away and they want to have access to that those type of amenities. Yet, any spot that I go to, any hotel that I go to, it's rare that you see that full package.
So this is a massive, what you're touching on is a huge trend that we're seeing in the travel and hotel spaces. This need for them to be able to provide kind of end-to-end health services, from kind of the base level, which is expected, which is a decent spa and a decent gym, but all the way through to being able to help with mental health, being able to help with recovery, being able to help with things that are just extended outside the gym. And all the top hotels now are investing serious dollars in being able to do that because consumers are demanding it. Like,
I always see the yoga, they always have the yoga, and they always have, we going to, one of my favorite resorts is One and Only. So going there, they got great yoga and they've got great massage. The gyms are okay. I mean, but there's so much when you go to these resorts. I've gone to a lot of nice hotels, and I've traveled outside of the hotel to be able to find something that was a little more suited for me.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like now, though, these hotels have to become more like their own city, where they almost don't want people to go off grounds.
Yeah, exactly. And they're finding ways to bring in like guest practitioners and people. Like, you see this movement here in New York, certainly, where there are fitness themes all over the place, whether it's rumble boxing or whether it's some other kind of like tone house or whatever. All these different things that are popping up all over the place, and finding ways to take those and bring them into hotels is becoming more and more popular. And then actually the opposite is people doing exactly what you do, is going to a hotel and actually going out into the town or the city to find somewhere else to work out.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and you were a high level athlete, and I'm always consulting with teams and saying, you don't want to just go cold turkey and do nothing. Recovery is not just sitting and resting and getting massage.
I feel worse.
Yeah.
I feel worse.
You have to have some level of activity. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think with the idea, like, people, the way they used to travel, they call it like flop and drop. Like, they just get out there, they'd get on the beach, they'd lie down and do absolutely nothing. Now consumers want to be able to do something, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to do some kind of training in the morning. They want to eat decent food. They want to know that their hotel has thought about, how am I going to sleep? How am I going to recover? There is a bit of a resurgence coming with all-inclusive. Well, like, all-inclusives in the past used to be just like all you can drink, all you can eat terrible food. Yeah. And now they're moving into that to make it more health and wellness. So all you can eat classes, like all the workouts you want over the course of the week you're there, or the buffet is completely healthy, and you know that over the course of the 5-6 days you're there, all your macros are taken care of, all of the stuff you need to eat.
It's funny, a decade ago, they would have these like wellness retreats. You would think about places like Canyon Ranch, or I just got a massage earlier this morning from a buddy of mine who's in California, and he's at this been at the spot for over 3 decades, to where they do hikes, and I wouldn't call it it's almost like a mental wellness place where you go for 7 days and you just shut down, and it's vegan, and they put you through this stuff. It would be great if you were able to actually have that as an option, where you didn't just have to go away to a place and do that. I would love to go to a vacation and be able to have access to all that stuff. But then at night, if I want to have a margarita with my wife, I'm able to do that. But I'm not eating chicken fingers and fries all week long because I don't have access to anything else. It's a problem with travel, and I'm starting to see that change. But you're at like the forefront of it. I feel like you're gonna probably be the guy that almost nail that and be able to bring that into a lot of these spots.
Hopefully, I think if the way to do it at the moment is just a little bit of planning. And I know you do amazing stuff with the Garden of Life guys, and they have this amazing travel sachet, like a travel sachet protein that I take everywhere I go. It's so easy. It's so easy to do it that way.
They're the best.
So with a little bit of planning, like, you can get around. Like, if you're just going to be stuck in an airport and you're not going to be able to eat, or you're going to be on a flight for 8 hours and you're not going to get good nutrition, if you plan a little bit ahead of time, it's not that difficult. I find the biggest challenge is sleep. Like, my sleep is
But it's easy for you. Sleep. We're going to come back to sleep in 2 seconds, but it's easy for you to plan out. It's easy for me to plan out. But 99.9% of the people on the planet, they don't know. They're like, well, what? Yeah, it would be. That's actually a great idea to come out. You have GOL come out with a little, like, your 100%.
A little travel kit would be so easy to do. I mean, like, I just take the ones you sent me, the little pouches of the protein, the plant protein, and I have those on me like all the time. And then I'll just make sure before I travel, I'll have the multivitamin and the fish oils. And I've always got those.
Perfect.
Yeah, and there's just little things you can do in terms of, like, most people will get to the airport and then they'll get on their flight, they'll watch TV for a couple of hours, and then it's usually an hour and a half into the flight that they serve the first meal. The first meal is usually heavily bread focused, heavily sugar focused. So you're getting in, you're overstimulating yourself in the first hour and a half watching TV, then you're having a heavy sugar laden meal, and then you're thinking about going to sleep.
And then they're passing coffee out too a lot of times. They're like, here, would you like a cup of coffee, would you like a glass of wine? You're like, oh my God, what are you doing to me right now?
So if you just switch that meal and you just move it to the half an hour before the flight, have a decent meal, get into your seat, and then sleep through the flight, it's a much better way to be healthy when you travel. Because
How
otherwise,
many countries do you think you've been to?
oh man, I get asked that so many times. I have like.
What do you think? Over under? What do you think it's over?
It's over 75, I'd say. It's definitely over that. I think you guys, because you're here in the States, in London and in the UK, you are probably 2 hours away from 20 or 30 countries that you can get to in no time on low-cost airlines. But over here, it's much harder for you to travel out and get international exposure. I think the stat is something like 60% of Americans don't have a passport.
75 is a lot. How about you? What do you think you're at? You've done a decent amount of traveling, right?
Oh, geez, I'm
Canada,
lucky if I'm in double digits, but yeah, you know, I just back and forth. I'm essentially American with a funny accent, right? So
Vancouver's cool. Everyone I know from Vancouver is cool, though. I mean, you, Michael J. Fox, Ryan Reynolds, these are all cool people. So they're all good dudes. So, question for you on the fin. This is more personal stuff. Yeah. Out of the 75 countries that you've been to, what would you find had the most unusual fitness wellness approach? They had their own type of their own type of culture, something that they did that you were just like, wow, this is just I'll never see this anywhere else.
Yeah, definitely. In Thailand, like Muay Thai boxing, it's just everywhere. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Those guys, from little kids all the way through to adults, they're like just bred fighters. They're just fighting. It's what they do. Their fitness is, you won't see them like out like in the gym, like the hotel gym. They don't see them doing all that stuff. They will literally be in the ring, just fighting each other. It's unreal. And like I've never really done any fighting, but just looking at the conditioning stuff they do, it's just unbelievable. It's really, really unreal and brutally hard. Like really, really hard stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and to be honest, those guys, I have a lot of respect for those guys because like we live in a a very developed country, and we can train in a beautiful gym like this, and Drive has everything you need.
Right.
Like just look around the corner, it's everything you need. These guys have literally got a straw mat on the floor, and they're finding ways to get extreme health and fight with each other. So yeah.
What about food? So this has got to be tough because you travel so much, and you are pretty meticulous about your eating.
It's the hardest thing. It's literally the hardest thing. I think the rule I always try and have is to enjoy local culture and enjoy local food. That's the purpose of traveling, is to have a local experience.
Right.
But just not to overindulge it. So if I know there are certain cuisines that are really unhealthy but really delicious, then try and have one meal of the day to really indulge in that food, and then the rest of the times be a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, though. That's like, you know, how do you have access to both? I mean, normally this is one or other type of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty anal about some of that stuff in terms of like packing food and like having like.
Where was it impossible for you to eat good?
Definitely in rural parts of Asia was really hard. And actually, the first time I went to China, like I love China. It's an amazing country and an amazing experience. But the food there is very different, very, very different.
Most delicious meal that you've had.
Most delicious meal that I've had.
Or maybe it might be, maybe first thing that just comes to mind, like what culture did you step foot into and you're just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Well, I'm saying Thailand again, but I love Thai food. I thought it was amazing. I thought when they, like local Thai food, like really healthy steamed vegetables and lean meats, I thought it was amazing.
I haven't had access to a lot of, I mean, obviously I've never been to Thailand, but even in New York City, there's a lot of Thai restaurants.
So what actually is, you bring up a good point. What I found is that most of the local cuisines that come to New York City, they cater for an American audience. So lots of heavy flavorings, lots of sugars, lots of salts. The sizes are big to deal with like American sizes. And I think when you go to these countries and you don't go to fancy restaurants, you just go to normal restaurants where normal people will go and eat, you get the best experiences. Like I've been lucky to spend a lot of time in Japan. I love Japan, and Japanese food is just on another level. It's on another level. When you're in Japan and you're there and you're having real authentic Japanese food, it is, it's unreal. Or if you go to Hawaii and you have like real poke bowls, like real fresh.
I've had what they've had here, and they're like,
it's like a joke. It's not even close. It's not even close. But it is hard. I mean, I think the when you travel, diet and sleep are the two things that I struggle with the most. Yeah.
Well, I mean, sleep's almost impossible because as good as you're trying to do, when you're flip-flopping your time zone, I mean, come on, what are you going to do? I mean, how many days? It's 4 or 5 days before you even start acclimating. So for me, it's, I've done it. I've gone overseas a bunch, and I'm wrecked for a week.
It's hard. It's really hard.
So what are your travel? I mean, I know you with health. What are your travel guidelines that you have when I'm on a plane? I make sure I get at least 8 ounces of water. I tell people 8 ounces of water every hour. Like, protein, high fats? Like, what are specific things that you do?
I do absolutely the same. Definitely, I'm really religious about that. The thing I mentioned earlier about trying to have a decent meal, like half an hour to an hour before the flight, rather than having the big meal on the flight. I really try not to have any stimulants, like on the day that I'm going to fly. So just try and stay off the coffee or anything that might kind of jack you up a little bit. I find that the most effective way for me to get acclimatized is to change all the clocks that I have on the day that I'm traveling to the time zone of where I'm going to.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So like my watch, my phone, my computer, everything, the day or even 2 days if I'm really going far, I'll change all my clocks to that and just mentally say, look, I'm in the time zone that I'm going to be into, so that when I land,
that's a great idea.
That actually helps a lot. That helps a lot. And then I'm sure there's some science behind it, but like a teaspoon of Manuka honey before I fall asleep really helps me sleep when I'm traveling. Yeah, that's I
could believe that because of a little bit of carbs. I actually like getting a little bit of carbs in before bedtime. I mean, a lot of people will discuss cutting their carbs in the evening because they're trying to stay leaner, and the whole theory behind not wanting to go to bed with a tank full of gas.
Yeah.
But a little bit of carbs scientifically has shown to improve sleep.
It helped me a lot. I think
it's great.
On the diet side, that would mainly be the things that I stick to. On the training side, when I was playing rugby, we got a lot of exposure to Olympic athletes and Olympic trainers, and one of the team GB coaches, I spent a lot of time with him. He was helping me rehab my shoulder, and he said, just as a rule of thumb, so Team GB Olympic teams, and just in general the Olympic, what's it called, the IOC, International Olympic Committee, says when you travel, you shouldn't do any heavy weight-bearing exercises within 24 to 48 hours of landing because of the compression that you go under when you're in a plane. So when you're up in the air, I think they say it's something like over 4 hours, there's actual real physiological changes to your body because of the pressure of the airplane. Mm-hmm. So when I land, what I'll try and do is if I'm going to work out the next day, it'll be a cardio session or freeletics, some kind of body weight, just to get the system moving.
Have you ever heard of it? I've never. That's one thing I've never heard of.
Never heard of that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a couple of things. Obviously, you're at altitude, right? So if you have less oxygen in your system, you're going to have less ability to repair tissue. So just as a rule, we'd say it's going to be something circulatory, close to before, and you're not going to lift really heavy before you get on the plane too, because that's a repair period, right? So it's the same as if you went to altitude to train. You have to be more careful about your recovery times. So dehydration, altitude, compression, like he was saying. So
makes perfect sense. I've just no one's ever even brought that up to me.
So I usually find definitely 24 hours after landing, I won't do a weight session, and then just depending on how I'm feeling, maybe 48 hours after. So I'll do something, I think, to your point, like something circulatory to get it moving. But actually, a full-on weight session, I wouldn't do it.
It's funny because I'm traveling tonight, but I'm traveling 3 hours. But I didn't work out today. I actually went and got a massage today.
Yeah.
And every time you get one, a good one.
Yeah.
Getting into the shower, you're like, you can feel the waste get moved through your body.
Yeah,
you can feel things start getting broken up.
Yeah,
it's just one of the, no point to what we were just discussing, but you were discussing circulation and recovery, still one of the more underutilized. And I think going out there and trying to find really good practitioners, most people don't know what they're getting. It's like, I don't go to a massage to relax. I go to massage for recovery, which part of that's relaxing, but I go to for more what it's doing to my tissue and how they're
the mechanical.
Exactly, the mechanical stuff. Everything else, the breathing is what I tie into it. But again, another recovery modality that I just think most of us are underutilized.
It's even more important when you fly because I don't think a lot of people realize that a plane is one of the dirtiest environments in the world.
Disgusting.
Like when they do the changeovers, they're like, airlines have measured on how quickly they can turn over passengers from landing to then taking off again. So that the smallest amount of time they have to clean the whole plane. So they never actually clean a plane. They only clean the surface level stuff off a plane. So if you actually look at a plane through a CSI lens, you'll see
it's
just disgusting. There's just so much.
Have you seen that?
I haven't actually seen it done, but a bunch of my friends were looking at it into studies into how you can actually measure the dirtiness of planes, and it's not just what's on the seats; it's the air as well.
I couldn't
You're circling air, so there's one sick person on the plane you won't know about. And you're just breathing in and out.
One guy with an eye infection, everyone's pussing on people.
Yeah.
Best airline that you've flown, or can you not discuss that? I mean, or is it one that you're very impressed by?
Best US airline is Delta.
Okay.
Yeah, personally for me, and that's largely because of their international network.
Okay.
I think, like, again, advice I'd always give to people is to look at the international network of whoever your regional airline is. So, like, their Sky team. So, where in the world are you going to be flying, and just jump in bed with one that has a good international network. Always get a credit card that is linked to your air miles if you're going to travel a lot. So I've got a Delta American Express card, and if I hadn't, that helps me get upgraded in places where I wouldn't, just because my day-to-day spending.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Always do that. There's literally zero downside. Again, always sign up for their loyalty programs, and if you can, wait until just before the end of their financial years, because oftentimes before the end of their financial years, and you can go online and you can listen to their quarterly earnings calls to work out when the end of their financial year is.
Oh, that's very
they
cool.
do a bunch of bonus miles and a bunch of deals before that happens, or they'll.
Did you hear that, guys?
Jump all over.
Bunch of things I didn't even think to do.
Get on that, because they're always doing things, or like, sign your wife up to the family program and get double miles, and your kids and double spending and all that stuff. So
that's US. How about non-US airlines?
Non-US airline that I've been really impressed with. I just flew back from Dubai last night, and Emirates, flew back on Emirates.
Emirates was incredible.
They were great. Etihad was great.
Etihad was great.
Really, really good, flying in and out of Abu Dhabi. And they're big sponsors of sports teams in the UK, so they have a big presences out there.
It's wild for a lot of people out there who haven't flown overseas. The experience really changes.
Well, the funny story is, a friend of mine, his mum was an air hostess for a long time, and we were talking about international airlines, and he explained that the reason why US airlines in many cases have lagged behind the rest of the world is because they're unionized, and so the employees in these airlines many of them have been employed by the airlines for 20, 30 years, and they can't be fired. So they physically can't be kicked out of the airline. So you have some of the American airlines where the air hosting team, are like in their 60s and 70s. Not that that's a bad thing, but then you go onto an international airline like Singapore Airlines or Emirates, and you have like young, attractive staff in their 20s and 30s.
And you're like, everyone's enthusiastic, a little bit of a different energy. I've experienced that also. Just the whole travel experience.
I fly out on Cathay because they come from Hong Kong. When I come to New York, it's the best experience, right? So
I heard good things about them. What else I was trying to think? Air Singapore? Which one?
Singapore Air. Yeah,
Singapore Air.
Singapore Air is a great airline.
Good things about them also.
Yeah, Singapore Air is a great airline.
Well, I mean, we talked a bit about it. Like, what kind of preparation? You've been to 75 countries. I know people who go to China and they're bringing supplements and bars and food because they're anticipating that the food's not going to be great. What kind of preparations do you make when you know you're going to go to a place? Do you take things? Do you, when I went to Central America, I had to get shots, and I had to make sure I didn't get sick of certain things. What kind of things do you think?
Yeah, so definitely the same. I'm in Malawi in a couple of weeks, and there's just a bunch of shots I have to get just to be in that country. And I think that you can go for Americans, you can go on the CDC website, and they'll give you the rundown. You just put in what country you're going to, and they'll tell you what you might be at risk of and what shots you need. So that's an absolute given. And I think most adults forget to do that because it's kind of the thing that your mum would take care of when you were a kid, and you don't realize that you should do it. So I definitely do that. On the food side, it's slightly different for me because a lot of the business that I'm trying to do and the meetings that I have are based around food, and so in many cases it would be rude of me not to eat if I go to like a dinner with a government minister and we're sitting down and I'm saying, hey dude, I'm gonna have this, so I can't do that. So there'll be like base filler meals that I'll make sure I always have, and that'll be a good solid protein, and Don turned me on to Garden of Life stuff, and that's just with me all the time. There's nuts. I've always got nuts on hand. It's mainly that really, and then it's just, I think, as I said earlier, being aware that there will be certain meals where I know I'm going to overeat, and I just have to eat as part of doing business. And
always trying to break that sweat. I mean, that's part of your mental and physical reset, right?
It's the only way. You have to train like a beast. You just have to switch it on. That if I'm going to be eating this stuff, I've got to turn it up in the gym. And so that's kind of, for me personally, that's how I get around it. I know that I'll go and train really, really hard when I travel because I'll be eating stuff that may not be.
But it's really no different than, say, me working with someone on Wall Street. And I'm going to explain why. When you travel, that's your work. And when you're in these different countries, exposed to these different cultures, these governments, you can't be rude. That's part of what you do.
Yep.
And when I have individuals come in here and they start discussing, well, they're out entertaining and it's business, I get it. Like, they're not going to sit here and say, I'm going to have a water while we're trying to land a deal or schmooze this clientele, open these bottles of wine. They have to do what they have to do.
Yep.
My whole thing is when you're home, when you're in your own environment, when you're in that spot, when you can control it. If you know you're going to go have that big dinner at night, make sure your day's perfect. Make sure you're training, make sure you're getting your sleep, make sure you're even eating a little something before you go out to dinner. Because then you're not, it's tough. If you're in meetings all day and you're famished and they're taking you out to dinner, okay, you're going to be diving in, you're probably going to be overeating. But if we can get, even if it's just a Garden of Life protein sport shake, and you can get that down with a piece of fruit, you're sneaking in an hour before you're going out to that dinner, you're going to go into that and you're going to be able to be much more successful. Your brain function is going to be much better off and you're going to be making better choices. So I'm not one to say, if you're going to another country, if you're on your honeymoon, eat clean, have fun, do what you got to do. I just don't like it when we start feeling like complete crap and 3-4 times a day we're just eating nothing but junk for 2 weeks, and the next thing you know, you just feel awful, and then you get sick when you come back. And it takes someone like us that we can kind of jump back on and just get dedicated again and dive into it, then it's fine. But for the majority of the public out there, they fall off and they get discouraged and it gets tough for them. And they don't want to come home from vacation, and they don't want to. We should be promoting travel. When people come back from travel, if they were just every time they're getting discouraged, that's not good for anyone. Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What some of the stuff on mental and wellness health? I mean, a lot of times, speaking to friends or even myself, you'd always feel a little guilty about taking a vacation, right? But we really need this. This is part of us being optimal throughout the year. I mean, is there specific science or statistics?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked so much about recovery modalities, and we've talked so much about like how I can switch off from work, and it just so happens that travel is a large part of my work, but just in general, factoring in time when you're not working, it's almost sort of 3 tiers. There's meditating and the base level stuff that you can control in your own environment, where you switch off and you detach from what's happening in your kind of normal day-to-day life. Then there's weekends, and planning your weekend so that weekends are doing things that will try and take me away from work, and there'll be things that I'll be excited about, whether it is going out and seeing friends or spending time with your kids. But just as important is planning and structuring vacations at times when you can absolutely switch off. And there's tons of science out there, and I'll misquote it, but there's tons of science about how travel and actually taking downtime away from your normal day-to-day environment is good at boosting your immune system. It's good at boosting your mental function. It's good at helping you to improve things in your life that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were stuck in the rat race and doing all day, every day, the same sort of thing. And I find that the people that invest in taking proper vacations and literally just turning the keys off, leaving them at home, and going away.
Productive.
Way more productive.
I felt, I think for the first time in my life, I felt it this past year, because I've been running so hot with the brands I'm working with Drive 495, with my digital product. And with digital, you don't turn it off. You're always on. You're always thinking about that next post, educating someone, answering questions. I mean, the way that you are and I am, and Derek, you too. I mean, we're very hands-on people, but there's a cost to doing business. And even the other day, I work from home. My family's been away. I said, this is a day I'm going to nail emails. I couldn't get off my phone till 9 p.m. And I think I had a dental appointment. So basically, from the moment I woke up, which was 7 till about 9 p.m., I got my workout in. That was really my only time. Otherwise, I'm on my handheld. My neck starts getting stiff. My eyes, I could feel while I'm sleeping, I'm a little.
But also, what's going on inside your brain, the blue light that's emitted from these devices is not good for you. You're overstimulated, you're hyperstimulated, and then when you come to actually switching off and when you go to sleep, your brain is so activated, you're exhausted, but your brain is not switching off. So you spend all day looking at the blue screens, and I think we've talked about it in the past again, but making sure that at least an hour before bed, those things.
We should create a protocol. I think this is really easy to do. Because if you think about it, workouts, I mean, so if you ask most people, what do you work out? I work out an hour. That's like the standard time. And you hear the bullshit 3 sets of 10. It's like these are standard things. Like, whoever created that? Like I know guys who work out 3 hours a day and they're successful. I know people who work out 20 minutes a day and they're successful. That's a pretty big range. There are factors. There's frequency, there's volume, there's intensity, there's all these things. There's how you're resting. These are all things that factor and dictate how much we should be training. We should come up with, I think we can do this pretty easily. We should come up with a protocol that's basically saying, listen, for those of you that are running hot on your phones and you feel like you're on there and you're concerned, these are things that we want you to do. These are really simple baseline protocols. I mean, off the top of our head, what are a couple of things we would say? I think you said an hour. I would say an hour to 2 hours before bed, definitely. I know there's adjustments now on your phone.
Flux is an app, like you just get it and that just
what's the app?
Flux, FL.ux. It's you install it on your laptop, and basically at a certain time of the day, it just cuts out all the blue light. So everything, it goes to an orange screen. It's really, really helpful.
Well, Apple has that now. Apple has a timer on their phone that the light changes, right?
Yep.
What else? I mean, what else would we really be telling people? I mean, there's got to be specific frequent breaks or maybe times of the day they should be going to their phone. Me, I'm the worst because I'm on it all day. What I probably should do is say, listen, I'm going to check my phone when I'm supposed to be doing postings, which is, maybe between 8 and 9 in the morning, 12 and 1, and maybe 4 to 5. Or maybe even get on to have a service that there's specific app services now that could do posts for you. And maybe going in and answering questions at specific times, so I'm not always on it.
It's hard. It is hard, especially if you're running a business. I think.
How do you separate it out? Because your job is essentially vacation. Yeah. Like when you're on vacation, how do you not think about the business?
So the nice thing for me,
you don't.
Everything I just said.
No, it's always work.
It's changed a little bit. In the early days, it was very much I would do all the traveling, and then our team would be creating all the content, and it would always be on, and it would always be together. Now I'm spending a lot more time on the business and actually traveling a lot less, and that's only because we've been able to build a bit of a structure where we have clients that are supporting us, and actually I can focus a lot more on the business time and actually structure things. So I know I wake up really early, so like 5:30 I'll be in the gym. I know by 7 I can start working. I know at lunch I'll take an hour off to just not think about the business and then switch off and then come back in for the afternoon. And it's that kind of structure that I think most people, that's what their day-to-day is like. And it's funny because most of the parameters that you think about changing in your life are in your control. Like you follow that relatively similar pattern, whether it's getting the 6 train every morning, whether it's being at your desk before 9 o'clock, whether it's having lunch at 12:30, those are relatively standardized. If you can just keep control of those, then all the other stuff around the margins is okay, and that's how I try to think about it. And then know that, okay, for that 1 week of the month when I'm out traveling, it may be a shit show, there may be things that are going to be completely different to what I normally do, but at least for the other 3 weeks, like I'm dialed in and I'm bang on sort of what I'm doing. I think you touched on one thing earlier in terms of personally for me, underlying all of it is the effort and intensity that I'll bring to training when I am training, and that's the thing where, like, if I don't have 2 hours to train in a day because I'm catching lots of flights or I'm doing lots of meetings, at least I know if I'm going to be in there for 30 minutes, I'll absolutely rip the arse out of it for 30 minutes, and then I'm done. And like I've earned for the rest of the day, I've earned it and I've put it in. I think if you have that mindset as soon as you get into the gym, then you set yourself up to be successful.
To be successful.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to touch on was that we talk a lot about ourselves, right? And you're exceptional, I'm okay.
You're exceptional.
But when we travel, we're thinking about these things like, I got to get a workout and I've got to have these habits. Could, you develop something where people go to a resort, don't have that mindset, but that is almost like a teaching opportunity for them so that when they go back to their life, hey, I've adopted this lifestyle and I want to keep doing this.
Absolutely. So what you're touching on is another trend that a lot of people are looking for in travel, which is learning experiences. Like they want to go to a place and they want to be able to bring something away from having had that experience. And that can range from getting in with a local community and helping build a school, or seeing how the local community is impacted by the hotel or the tourism product in that region. Or it can be, hey, I want to come in and I want to learn, how do I improve my sleep when I get back to New York? Or how do I train better? How do I put together better, healthier cooking? And I think that's a massive, massive space. And if there are any hotel guys watching, you need to jump in with these two and hire them and get them to come in and help consult on how you actually bring people in and yes, have an amazing experience, but also get taught new skills that they can take when they go back, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. One thing I found out about teaching is, and you're right, most people aren't the way that we are when it comes to fitness or our passions. You know, it comes very easy. Just like I have friends of mine that might be really into art, or you know, they might be just so infatuated with the markets and they can just sit there all day long and it doesn't even feel like work. But when it's something that's good for you, I think we need to start exposing people. And listen, everyone needs to exercise. That's just something that we all have in common. Everyone should break some sort of a sweat, whether it's 10 minutes a day or an hour a day. I think it really depends on the individual and what type of shape they're in. But I think how we teach them and how we expose someone that first time, it's a responsibility. And if I'm going to bring someone in here and their history is that they just never can get off the couch, and I'm going to throw them into an hour-long training session where, you know, it's hard, well, guess what? They're probably not going to be successful. Or we can turn around and, you know, exposing them at one of these resorts and saying, listen, this is going to be your, you know, step one to wellness. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to expose you to a 20-minute workout, and it's going to be really easy. And they're not even going to know it, but they're going to turn around and say, wow, I can do that. And I feel really good. And we're going to have a healthy lunch, and we're going to expose you to some foods that are just delicious. This is healthy? Wow, this is unbelievable. Wow, when you just took someone who couldn't do that and you exposed them to something good, where their only fitness experience in their past might have been with their gym teacher back in 1977, who didn't know his ass from his elbow and was having him climb the ropes, and the person fell on their arm and broke their arm, or literally vomited from running 6 miles or doing things. Does that make sense? It's just, I feel like what we're doing as professionals or in these spaces, we have a responsibility, and it shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah, and you're going to find, I think, that consumers are very, very open to that now. Like they want to have these experiences, and the reason that all the explosion in the fitness industry is happening within, certainly within urban environments, is because they've made it very easy. If hotels and travel brands made it easier to be fit and healthy, people would jump into it. They want it.
I agree, because Derek, you know what? If I want to become a better runner, and if I had the means to be able to hire you for a few hours a day and work with you on running, yeah, I'm going to turn into a really good runner. But if you also gave me 2 drills a day to work on that took me 5 minutes, I'm still going to become a better runner. Listen, there are going to be different levels. I might excel way faster and way more on option A, but I'm still going to improve on option B. And I think that's what we have to start explaining to people, you know, even with travel. This works, this is still great. Well, I only did it for 20 minutes. This is still great. We're going to get you in a better shape. And I think that's what we need to start doing. So if people are going to find you, you know, we have Jeremy Jauncey's.
Social channels, just at Jeremy Jauncey, that's the easiest way.
Instagram is my favorite.
Yeah, Instagram, me too. Yeah, jump on Instagram if you're on there, thank you. Beautiful Destinations, those would be the main ones.
And what are the other ones? Can you run
Yeah,
those?
Beautiful Destinations, beautiful hotels, and beautiful cuisines on Instagram or Facebook.
I'm looking forward to beautiful exercise soon.
I haven't seen Beautiful Cuisines yet. I want to check out
Beautiful Cuisines. But we've really been talking a lot about health and wellness and how we actually have something like that. It's funny because Instagram now is so developed. Like there's beautiful something, and I get emails every single week from people trying to sell me beautiful whatever. So getting, I think, anything beautiful health is going to be tough for a little while. But we want to try and do something in that space. But yeah, that's the best way to get hold of us. Check us out on those channels.
You're gonna crush it, man. Like I said, you've turned into a good buddy, and I couldn't be any more honored to have you in this room with us.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah,
expect huge things from this guy. All right, you don't hear me say that much about people, but he's gonna crush it. So, thanks again, man.
Thanks, dude. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.